What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the social work race. My voice is a bit low this morning because everyone's still sleeping, so hopefully you can bear with me on whispering, and everyone's coming off of the end of a cold, right? But yeah, so before I go into the topic, I just want to let you know it's been a tough week, one of the toughest weeks I've had in a very, very long time. And I'm up early because I've got an emergency visit this morning before everyone's awake, and it's the holidays, right? The holidays have kind of just started, and that's an overview. So there's me clearing my throat and keeping my voice down. I'm keeping the bass down in my voice because they will hear it. So this is interesting, right? I sometimes respond to videos that are comments on videos that are posted on my TikTok, which is where I get a lot of kind of traffic. Excuse me again. And someone asked me to review the Sebastian, how can I say his name again? Sebastian Kalinowski. The Sebastian Kalinowski case, the young boy that was murdered by his parents, right? And so we're going to look at disguised compliance again, just briefly, but on a more feet on the ground kind of perspective on it. And what I'm not offering is all the solutions in the world. No, it's really more about awareness. Before I go into it, please subscribe to if you click on the link in the bio, you can subscribe to all my social media. In the Linktree post, and especially if you're a social work student and you want guidance, this week has been interesting because I've been helping a couple of students just with their first year and with their placement experience, helping them to process that. That's been really fruitful. And if you want help with that, the best way to do it is to subscribe to my Patreon channel. Do that now. Pause and do that, or do it as you listen. So, in looking at this case, it is interesting because there is a video. God knows why they filmed it, but luckily there was a video of the parents in how they behaved in what you could say torturing their child, right? And read it for yourself. I don't need to go into it so much, but it is interesting because I think we have to, no matter how many times we talk about disguised compliance, it's something that you have to keep in the forefront of your mind whenever you visit a case. So, for example, it's more, I can't say it's more, but especially for those who work in assessment teams, those who go out and meet the family first, a lot of the time there's an allegation of abuse or, an assault, and you have to dig. And the way that we dig into these is that we have to use our eyes and observe, interpret behavior, interpret micro expressions, understand and observe how parents respond to questions. You know what I mean? What are you picking up? And if you're not sure, dig deeper. And the parents may at times get frustrated with you and may feel judged, but you have to ask those questions. And so, of course, you've got to build a relationship with them so that they don't mind answering questions. And that's one of the ways we get around it. Kind of befriend and then dig and then, be honest with them. Don't hide or beat around the bush. Tell them, honestly, you need to convince me at times, or I need to hear. I need more from you on this because I need to document this. And it's only fair that I get the whole truth. You've got to work with parents and let them understand what you're trying to do. And that's my preferred method. And let me say, that's my method. I should be clear to say it's not the only method. I'm really upfront with parents from the offset so that they know. So although we're building relationships, it's a trusting relationship that is really more professional because I'm trying to keep the lines really clear, right? So when it comes to disguised compliance, something I've noticed is that a parent will always, let me say that again. A parent will sometimes try to overly befriend you, be overly accommodating. And this can really kind of glaze over what's going on. It adds a bit of glitter, glam, bit of blurriness to what you want to see. And that's something that, if you're going to take a cup of tea or biscuits or let them talk, do a lot of talking, that's something else I'm going to come to. You have to keep your glasses clean, your lenses clean, yeah? Bear in mind, parents who do that sometimes are being nice or they're trying to hide something. It's just one of two reasons. Don't get it twisted. There's nothing else that's going on. Either they're actually nice people and they're very accommodating, or they're trying to hide something. And you have to bear that in mind all the time. And the reason why I'm going over this again, and I've got about 3 previous podcasts on disguise compliance, is that, your awareness can slip because every family is different. Every referral is different. You could be tired, you could be under pressure, or they're just the type of family that you just trust. Or they could be, I remember podcasting on a family that, in a previous disguise compliance episode, where they were of the exact same culture, exact same age. So we had a lot to relate to. Luckily, they were innocent of any kind of the referral, but you have to be aware of that. The other thing is, when parents talk a lot, you can do one of two things. You should do 2 things. Let me say you should do 2 things. You should allow them to talk and if you want to understand more about language analysis, listen to Peter Hyatt, Hayatt, on YouTube, and he goes into language analysis. Really powerful tool I use in everyday life. Listen to what people say, because what they say is true. Everything that people say is true. So when people are lying, actually they're telling the truth, and that's something you need to go into a bit later. We'll go into that later. So, listen to parents, because what they're telling you is important. Do you know what I mean? You've got to, if a parent's talking about it, like I've had a parent where I'm questioning them and they're talking about everything but answering a question. And you've got to listen to that. You've got to listen to what they're saying and then let it play out. Sometimes that's what makes interviews or interventions long, is because the parents doing all the talking, let it play out and then play themselves back. Tell them, you've answered everything but the question. Now let's go back. And one parent I spoke to a while ago, I had to say to them, stop and listen to me. Answer my questions. I've done it with a number of parents. You're not answering my question. And that gives me a cause for worry, because the question is about the offence, the safety of the child, or whatever, something relevant, and you're answering something else. Come back to the question. So they've already told me that they're trying to avoid. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing about disguise compliance, is that you have to hear through what they're saying. So allow them to talk, right? When you step into the house and you're going to see a lot of smiles, smile back, all of that, but you have to be so focused in a way that is almost like a detective. Unfortunately, that is our job. We are detectives, And the way that we kind of dig through disguise compliance is to ask more questions. And it's an area that I have to keep focused on myself. I'm telling you what I'm doing. I'm not telling you like I'm sitting on a high chair saying I've learned this skill and that's it forever. No, I have to constantly remind myself about asking questions, more and more questions about what it is I'm doing here. You know what I mean? Going back to the way that this young boy was abused, the CCTV footage kind of showed everything, really. It showed me a lot. It showed me that those parents were professional abusers. And in my opinion, professional abusers know how to hide what they're doing. Yeah. So why am I saying that? It's because sometimes we're trying to detect if there is any kind of abuse going on in a home. And it's difficult to tell. Or sometimes you have an inkling and you don't know what to do with it. You're thinking, how can I articulate this in an assessment to say, actually, we need more intervention? And will it meet the threshold? How will you be able to explain it to your manager to say, we need a child in need plan, or take it to child protection conference? How can we do this? When you've got even a strong inkling, but very little evidence. that's the reality of managing disguise compliance. Sometimes parents like those who killed this young boy, their own child, what they were doing was they were, in a sense, developing a level of achievement, kudos, from torturing this boy. They were so calm and collected in the way they did it. It's scary. And I can imagine any social worker going in that home would have a hard time digging through unless they were able to see the injuries on the child. Then that would be the flag. But without that, how would you know if the child isn't willing to speak? How would you take that to child protection conference? How would you save that life? And that's a challenge. And so it's about just being really, really aware of what you're doing and looking for, and this is where we make enemies with the parents, because the number of questions that we ask or the way that we ask can cause them to be frustrated with your presence. And here's another level of or type of disguise compliance is when a parent is happy to say, well, look, you know what? I've made some changes of recent. I hear what you're saying, and I'm happy to have a social worker in my life. And this is where it gets tricky. This is where it gets really tricky. I'm happy to work with you. Whatever you suggest, I'll do. That is another form. That can be another form of disguise compliance, because what they're trying to do is keep their friends close, you know the saying, but keep their enemies closer. So if I put my arm around you, sit you down, welcome you into my house, come and see everything, that's another way of hiding in plain sight. And that's one of the great challenges for social workers, because it's easy to be hoodwinked like that. Remember, we have to go by evidence. And if a parent is saying everything right, I've worked with families where the parent and the children are just so, they sound a little bit kind of like they've rehearsed the answers. What do you do with that? You can document that, but what can you do with it? And abuse can go on because you're so close you can't see. And so that's something that it's just about an awareness. Like I said, I didn't have all the answers. I don't think I need to, because there is no cure for this. Some parents are just going to do what they're going to do, and we have to just do our best to see and ask and dig and look and see and ask and dig, and hopefully, the opportunity is there to save a life. Yeah, that's what I had for you today. Disguise compliance number 4. There's 3 more previous to this. It's important to listen to them because they are this particular podcast, in my experience, is a good tool to help someone understand what they're doing out there whilst they're out there. But understand that, because the public generally are, weary of us, we're already having to kind of push through a lot of material just to get to understand who they are sometimes. What we don't want is a child to just be left in a home further being abused, but really the parent held to account for their behavior. And, sometimes, like calling out behavior, calling it out and saying, well, that's not right. That doesn't work. And sometimes I'll walk away, think about it, and then the next day I'll call the parent and say, I don't like what you're doing there, or I don't think that's the right thing for your child. I'm uncomfortable with how you X, Y, and Z. So yeah, that's it. I could talk all day. Hopefully that was helpful. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to the Patreon channel, where you can get one-to-one support and access to exclusive material. But also share with your friends. It'd be really helpful. And take care of yourselves.